What if the secret to building an absolute juggernaut of an online presence has, well, literally nothing to do with gaming the algorithm or, agonizing over SEO?
Right. We're squeezing people through some sterile sales funnel,
Exactly. What if the highest converting digital strategy is actually just relinquishing your ego?
which sounds completely counterintuitive, I know.
It really does. But for those of you listening, whether you are, gearing up for a major client meeting, or maybe you're trying to get a startup off the ground, or you just have this insatiable curiosity about how human psychology actually dictates our digital world, we have a really fantastic mission today.
We really do.
Welcome to the deep dive. We are unpacking a genuinely paradigm-shifting guide today. It's called Internet Marketing Magnetism.
Yeah, and the entire goal here is to figure out how to build a magnetic online presence, but not through aggressive pop-up ads or sleazy high-pressure tactics.
Right, because we all hate those.
Exactly. It's about cultivating authentic human connection in a landscape that, let's be honest, usually feels completely devoid of it.
Yeah, and that is a shift I think people are practically begging for right now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the current digital ecosystem, it is just saturated with cons, relentless pitches, and this crushing wave of information overload.
It's exhausting.
Consumers are exhausted. They are desperate for the real deal. They want to interact with someone who doesn't just, treat them like a mere data point on a conversion spreadsheet.
Which is exactly why the core argument of our source material is just so incredibly refreshing. I mean, it completely shatters the myth that personal magnetism is some sort of genetic lottery ticket.
Right, like you're just born with it.
Yeah. We tend to think you're either born with this glowing, charismatic aura, or you're just doomed to blend into the background forever. But this text argues that magnetism is actually a highly trainable skill.
It's an action, yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Treating people with profound respect and genuine curiosity isn't just like a polite thing to do. It is actually the ultimate unbeatable marketing strategy. But, I mean, where do we even begin to deconstruct a concept like that?
Well, we have to start by looking at a fundamental paradox of human focus.
Okay.
To understand what personal magnetism actually is and how to wield it, we have to completely dismantle our natural instinct to center ourselves in every narrative.
Which is hard to do.
Very hard.
Yeah.
But the author of our source material illustrates this beautifully with an anecdote about a summer camp manager they worked for back in high school.
Oh, I loved this specific story because it completely subverts all your expectations.
It really does.
Because when you hear camp manager, you automatically picture like the stereotypical alpha personality, someone with a clipboard and a whistle, just barking orders, making sure everyone knows who is in charge of the room.
Right, the loud, overbearing presence.
Yeah.
But this manager operated on a completely different frequency.
Yeah.
The author points out that usually when you meet someone who desperately wants to impress you, they spend the entire conversation aggressively trying to convince you that they are the most unbelievable, accomplished person in the cosmos.
They just list their accolades.
Exactly. They dominate the airspace.
Yeah.
But this camp manager did the exact opposite. He spent every single interaction inquiring deeply about the campers themselves.
He made it all about them.
He really did. He got visibly, genuinely energized about their niche interests and their lives. Within like 5 minutes of talking to him, he had you entirely convinced that you were the most unbelievable person in the cosmos.
He didn't just, pretend to care. He made people feel fundamentally treasured.
Yes.
And that leads right into a crucial psychological distinction the source makes. It's the difference between self-esteem and self-value.
Which is huge.
Because in everyday conversation, we use those terms interchangeably, right? But here, they operate almost like opposing forces.
What's fascinating here is that self-esteem is fundamentally tied to your ego. It's a self-concept.
Okay.
It's the story you tell yourself about how smart or important you are. But self-value is entirely behavioral.
It's an action.
It's an action. It is about how you treat yourself and, by necessary extension, how you treat the people around you. The text actually uses the analogy of a priceless Da Vinci painting.
Oh, right. Yeah.
If you genuinely value that painting, you don't just walk around telling people it's important. You invest time, resources, and sacrifice into its preservation.
You take action to protect it.
Exactly. You meticulously control the temperature and humidity of the room. You take protective action.
Because value is demonstrated through care, not just words.
Exactly that. And this creates the psychological loop that acts as the engine for personal magnetism.
How so?
Well, Individuals who possess an elevated sense of self-value inevitably end up valuing other people.
Hmm.
And the more they demonstrate that value toward others, the more their own internal self-value expands. It generates this incredible sense of verve and deep purpose.
Wow.
But the inverse of that loop is also true, and it is the exact trap that swallows so many modern internet marketers whole.
You're talking about the trap of downward comparison, right? Like the instinct to undervalue others just to elevate yourself.
Yes. And the mechanism behind why we do this is purely physiological.
Yeah.
When you undervalue someone, say, by talking down to your audience or assuming your customers are gullible or aggressively trashing your competitors, your own internal self-value actually plummets.
Wait, really? It goes down.
It drops. You throw yourself into what the text defines as a depreciated state. And when your brain is in that state, you feel small and powerless. So to survive that deeply uncomfortable feeling, your brain seeks out a temporary toxic hit of adrenaline.
So you overcompensate.
Right. You suddenly have an overwhelming need to feel correct or dominant, so you become resentful, cynical, and your entire perspective severely constricts.
You know, it's like a bad first date where the other person is treating the conversation like a playground seesaw.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. They operate under this delusion that the only possible way to lift themselves up is to push you down into the dirt. We've all sat across the table from that person. They're just blabbing endlessly about their own prizes, their brilliant investments, how everyone else in their industry is an idiot.
And you just want to leave.
You're just sitting there, sipping your drink, completely repulsed by the energy they're putting out, hoping like a random airplane just lands on them.
That seesaw dynamic is the perfect way to visualize it. What that person on the date is actually doing, what the arrogant internet marketer is doing,
Hmm?
is broadcasting a severely depreciated state of self-value.
Yeah.
They're desperately seeking a temporary adrenaline high by dominating the space. The text actually brings in a brilliantly cutting quote from Oscar Wilde to encapsulate this.
Oh, I love this quote.
He said, "Unfavorable judgment is the only dependable form of autobiography."
Unfavorable judgment is the only dependable form of autobiography. That is lethal.
It really is.
So when a marketer is constantly shouting about how elite they are or how garbage the rest of the market is, they aren't establishing authority at all. They are just telling on themselves. They are broadcasting their own insecurity.
Because bragging is fundamentally a projection of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
True magnetism, the kind that actually converts an audience into a loyal community, requires the profound, quiet confidence to shine the spotlight entirely away from yourself and firmly onto the needs, fears, and achievements of the person reading your website.
See, that makes complete sense in a physical space like a summer camp or across a dinner table. But we have to translate this to the digital realm.
Right.
If true magnetism requires making the other person feel valued, how on earth do you communicate that through a glowing rectangle? You can't read body language, you can't match their tone, and you can't even make eye contact.
You have to construct a very sturdy psychological bridge of trust. And our source material breaks this construction down into two distinct phases.
Okay, what are they?
There are the internal psychological traits the marketer must adopt, and then the external practical steps they must take on their actual web pages.
The internal traits are fascinating to me. The text lists requirements like maintaining a hope in human goodness, creating a healing environment of forgiveness, actively reducing your competitive instincts. And it introduces this concept called the backfire belief.
Yes, the backfire belief.
The idea that what you put out into the world, fair-mindedness, honesty, vulnerability, will eventually come back to reward you. But wait, look at the reality of the internet.
It's a tough place.
It is notoriously full of cynical actors, defensive trolls, and outright scammers. So if you're a marketer trying to run a profitable business, isn't relying on the fair-mindedness of life incredibly naive? Won't assuming the best in people just get you eaten alive by bad actors?
I mean, it is easy to look at it that way, but the backfire belief is not about being a naive pushover who invites scammers.
Okay.
It is a highly strategic mental attitude designed to protect the marketer from becoming entirely closed off.
How did that work?
Well, if you operate your business with the belief that you must ruthlessly control 100% of your fate and guard against every possible slight, you inevitably become defensive, paranoid, and totally isolated.
You put up walls.
Exactly. But by adopting the belief that fairness eventually wins out in the aggregate, you free yourself from the paralyzing fear of rejection You relinquish the dread of intimacy. You basically drop your psychological armor.
So you're essentially stripping away the corporate defense mechanisms because you can't be magnetic if you're broadcasting from inside a bunker.
Exactly. You have to risk being vulnerable. And that internal willingness to be vulnerable translates directly into how you design your digital presence.
Right.
The source gives 5 very practical steps for building trust online. And they're all rooted in this concept of removing your armor.
Let's look at those steps because they radically change how you view web design. Think about the last time you landed on a massive guru's landing page. If you can't find an email address anywhere or you're forced to fill out this sterile automated ticket system, their walls are up.
They are hiding.
They're completely hiding. Our text says the first step is placing easy contact info completely above the fold right near the top of the page. Don't make people dig to find out how to talk to a human being.
Because hiding your direct contact information sends a very clear subconscious signal. It says, I don't actually want to hear from you.
Exactly.
So that's step 1. The second step is providing real customer recommendations. And real is the non-negotiable operative word here.
No fake testimonials.
Right, you cannot just paste anonymous glowing text. You need to provide links, photos, and contact info for the reviewers so a skeptical visitor can see they aren't counterfeited. It's about total transparency.
Okay, and then step 3 is maintaining a professional blog, but not just to stuff it with SEO keywords, right?
Right? Not just for Google.
It's to showcase your actual personality and, more importantly, to engage actively in the comment threads. It proves there's a breathing human behind the curtain who is willing to have a dialogue.
Yes.
And step 4 is featuring a personal photo to establish immediate visual rapport.
And then step 5 is incredibly important for the user experience. Do not overwhelm your site with ads.
Oh, please don't.
The source explicitly advises limiting monetization to maybe 3 highly relevant ads per page. There is absolutely nothing more hostile or off-putting than arriving at a site that is jammed with blinking banners and intrusive pop-ups.
It's the worst.
It immediately screams at the user, I value your accidental clicks far more than I value your actual presence.
Wow, yeah. So looking at those 5 elements, contact info up front, verifiable human reviews, an active dialogue in the blog, a real face, and minimal visual spam, those aren't just technical web design tips.
No, not at all.
They are digital manifestations of vulnerability. They are psychological signals telling the visitor, I am open, I am real, and I have absolutely nothing to hide from you.
You are creating a safe digital harbor. You've established a baseline of trust and lowered their defensive walls.
But trust alone is just the foundation, isn't it? I mean, trust just means they don't actively hate you or think you're a scammer. That doesn't necessarily make them stick around. So what is the mechanism that actually compels someone to follow you, to subscribe, to actually buy into your world?
That comes down to the underlying energy you project through your writing. Specifically, how you celebrate living.
Celebrating living.
Yeah. People are naturally drawn to and want to follow happy people.
It's so simple, but so true.
It really is. A reader can tell within 3 sentences whether the person writing is fundamentally energized by life or if they are a baseline complainer who is just trying to extract money.
Yeah, you can feel it in the tone.
Exactly. The text leans heavily into the power of gratitude here, explaining that genuine gratitude acts as a psychological shield. It literally protects your brain against the destructive, constricting impulses of envy, greed, and resentment.
And to cultivate that shield, the author introduces this breathtaking concept called appreciation strings.
I love this part.
Me too. These are basically invisible chains of gratitude for all the microscopic human efforts that make our everyday lives function. The story they use to illustrate this is so incredibly vivid. It's about the author's mother and a simple can of mainstream beans.
There's a masterful way to explain the concept. Because think about the modern mindset.
Right.
Most of us just grab a can of beans off a supermarket shelf, toss them in the microwave, eat them while staring at our phones, and think absolutely nothing of it. We are completely blind to the massive chain of human events that delivered those calories to our plate.
We just take it for granted, but the author's mother sees the entire chain because she lived it.
You did.
When she was young in Maine, harvesting those beans wasn't a concept, it was grueling reality. She and her sister would walk down a steep hill, pay a 10-cent toll to a man in a rowboat just across the river, and then catch a bus out to the agricultural fields.
Just to get to work.
Right. And she would work all day long, bent over in the blistering, raging sun, performing back-breaking labor just to make $10 a week. So today, when she looks at a simple can of string beans, she doesn't just see a cheap side dish.
No.
She sees the sweat, the logistics, the immense human toll behind it. She appreciates that single can of beans infinitely more than someone who just expects it to be there.
And the source lays out 4 specific keys to building these appreciation strings for your own life so you can capture that exact same energy.
What are the 4 keys?
First, you have to train your cognizance. You must daily observe and actively note what you appreciate.
Okay.
Second, train your wonder.
Hmm.
When you use something, ask how it got done. Research the supply chain, the history, the effort.
Basically get curious.
Exactly. Third, train your retention. Meditate on these facts. Remember them daily so they don't fade. And fourth, link them together. The immense appreciation you feel in one isolated area of your life will organically bleed over and energize the others.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because our modern consumer culture basically trains us to treat life like a giant instant gratification vending machine.
Yes.
I insert my money, the product falls out, end of transaction. But actively building these appreciation strings requires you to become an investigative journalist of your own daily comforts. You have to trace back the human effort.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this explains the exact mechanism of how a marketer's internal mood translates into magnetic external text.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
Well, if you practice training wonder offline, if you are walking around genuinely curious and grateful about how the world functions, your online communication naturally loses that dry vending machine tone.
Oh, I see.
You stop writing like a corporate robot. Your text becomes deeply engaging because it is infused with actual vibrating verve. The reader feels your energy.
Which brings us to a really delicate transition. Let's say we have cultivated this appreciative mindset. We are valuing others. We are tracing our strings. How do we package that raw, authentic energy into a digital profile without sounding like a polished, robotic cliche?
That is the challenge.
Because if you look at LinkedIn or most About Me's pages, everyone claims to be fun, optimistic, and highly motivated. It means absolutely nothing.
It requires a very strategic balance of authenticity, self-deprecating humor, and presentation. The source actually anchors this section with Thomas Edison.
The light bulb guy.
Right. When Edison was trying to invent the incandescent light bulb, he famously failed thousands of times. But his framing of that failure is what matters. He didn't call them failures.
Yeah.
He referred to them as fresh ways that didn't work.
He jested at himself. He didn't take his own ego so seriously.
And that refusal to take yourself too seriously is crucial for social media. Currently, the industry standard tells marketers they must be omnipresent. You have to dominate Facebook, LinkedIn, X, TikTok, Instagram.
It's a full-time job.
It is. But the text advises a much more grounded approach. Claim your name on all platforms simply to prevent identity theft or false information, but recognize that actively maintaining all of them is a massive drain on your verve.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So point the secondary platforms back to your main site and only participate on the 1 or 2 platforms you actually enjoy.
Protect your energy and don't spread yourself thin.
But wait, as I was reading this section, I noticed a pretty glaring contradiction in the source material.
Well, what was that?
Well, we are explicitly told to embrace our failures like Edison, to be radically authentic and not take ourselves seriously. But literally pages later, the text strictly warns against putting up unflattering photos or exposing all your messy flaws online because internet users have a ruthless next mindset.
The next filter.
Yeah. So how do we reconcile this? Are we supposed to be authentically messy humans or highly polished professionals putting our best face forward? This raises an important question, and it cuts to the absolute core of how human beings process information online. Magnetism is not about broadcasting your ugly, messy flaws right out of the gate under the guise of authenticity.
Okay.
That is just oversharing. You have to understand the cognitive load of browsing the internet. We are bombarded with millions of pixels and options every second. To survive this fire hose of information, the human brain relies on rapid visual judgment.
Right, snap decisions.
If a site looks sloppy or a photo looks unprofessional, the brain categorizes it as unsafe or low value, and the user clicks away in a millisecond.
That's the next filter in action.
Precisely. You must put your best face forward visually just to survive that initial next filter. The text advises getting professional photos, not cheesy, heavily retouched glamour shots, but candid, high-quality black and white close-ups or dynamic photos of you traveling or engaged in a sport.
Okay, so look competent.
You need to signal visual competence to get your foot in the door. But once you have their attention, You use self-deprecating humor in your text to prove you are an approachable human. You basically curate your quirks.
Curate your quirks. I absolutely love that framing. And the specific examples the source gives for writing a profile are masterclasses in the show don't tell rule.
Oh, they are fantastic.
Don't just type out the words, I am adventurous and open-minded. That's incredibly boring. You have to leave some mystery, some narrative friction, so people actually feel compelled to email you and ask questions.
The examples they use to demonstrate this are brilliant. Instead of broadly claiming, I'm adventurous, the author suggests telling a hyper-specific, slightly embarrassing story.
Like the Jungle Priest.
Yes, like the time they had to ask a jungle priest to put 2 cats in his mouth. Purely because their Spanish was so atrocious, they used the completely wrong vocabulary words.
That is unforgettable. Or to demonstrate being open-minded, they talk about hugging a man who was doing a handstand on a Coors bottle while he shared his personal philosophy about living in an inverted world.
It's so weird, but it works.
If I read that on someone's profile, there is a 100% chance I am sending them an email to ask for the rest of that story.
Because it actively sparks curiosity.
Yeah.
It is authentic, it is funny, it highlights a failure, the terrible Spanish, but it is packaged in a way that extends an invitation for connection.
Yeah.
And when that connection is made, the source lays out very strict rules for the emails that follow to ensure the magnetism doesn't die in the inbox.
The rules for engagement, first and foremost, absolutely no form letters.
Never.
If someone reaches out, you have to read their profile or their message and ask one specific, short, open-ended question tailored entirely to them. You keep your entire email under one paragraph.
Keep it brief.
Yeah, and you share one very short, relevant experience of your own to build the bridge.
And the most critical rule of all, move the interaction offline as quickly as possible.
Wait, get off the internet.
Yes. The goal of internet magnetism isn't to be digital pen pals until the end of time. You want to escalate to a real voice-to-voice conversation. And the text even includes a practical safety measure, using *67 to block your caller ID when making that initial phone call, just to protect your personal boundaries.
Because even though you are operating with a backfire belief and assuming fair-mindedness, you still have to protect your peace. You are using the internet as a massive sorting mechanism to find the right real-world connections.
And that is the ultimate function of everything we've discussed.
Let's bring this all together and recap this journey for you listening. We started by dismantling the myth of the algorithm. True internet magnetism is a fundamental shift in your focal point. You elevate your own self-value by fiercely and genuinely valuing the people in your audience.
You build an unbreakable foundation of trust by removing your corporate armor, making yourself incredibly easy to contact, providing verifiable proof, and showing your real face.
Right. You cultivate a magnetic, joyful energy by actively tracing the appreciation strings in your daily life, ensuring your writing radiates genuine verve instead of transactional desperation.
And you package all of this by expertly curating your quirks. You survive the ruthless visual, next, filter with high-quality presentation, but you invite human connection by showing your unique, sometimes messy, real-life experiences in your text.
So what does this all mean? It completely flips the script on how we view our digital existence. But it leaves me with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over, and I want you to really turn this over in your head today.
Okay, what is it?
The source material repeatedly stresses the importance of moving these online interactions to real-life phone calls or physical meetings. It openly admits that online business, at its genesis, is shallow. It's a vast numbers game where you cast a wide net.
You have to sift through the noise.
But think about the implication of that. If the absolute highest peak of internet marketing magnetism, the ultimate reward for all this digital vulnerability, the professional photos, the brilliant, quirky copywriting, if the ultimate goal is actually getting off the internet entirely to close a deal, hear a voice, or make a physical connection, is our online presence really about building a sprawling digital empire at all?
That is the pivotal question underlying this entire philosophy.
Is this entire digital landscape that we stress over, optimize, and pour our energy into just a highly sophisticated psychological filter? A tool designed not to keep us perpetually glued to a screen, but simply to help us find the few wonderful, genuine humans we actually want to spend our real offline lives with? That cold, soulless algorithm we used to worry about? Maybe the real secret is just using it as a compass to find the warmth. Something to think about next time you log on. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.